Hey guys, my name is Ryan, and welcome to Overwatch Central and another Omen by HP video. Omen by HP are of course the official PC provider of the Overwatch League and an official partner of Overwatch Contenders, which we will have a lot of focus on here. The Overwatch League is of course down at the moment with some downtime. I think it starts up again in about 60 days, but still some interesting stuff is happening in the tier 2 scene with the rise of Quad DPS. We will mostly be focusing on two games, one of which was in the Korean region and one of which was in the China region, both of which have been using Quad DPS quite a lot in December and more. So I want to talk about the composition. It isn't just pick any 4 DPS and make it work. So I want to talk about what constitutes a Quad DPS composition, why it's been used, where it's been used, why it's actually really good, why it's going to get better, and also some other bits and pieces around the composition. We've already had people like Jane look at Quad DPS and specifically StormQuake's Quad DPS that they brought out against GC Busan Wave. So I want to use this game to talk about where it's been used and what exactly they're trying to get out of it. This is the composition that StormQuake are running on defense. They have Widowmaker, Hanzo, Pharah and Soldier as the DPS, Mercy as the sole support, and Orisa as a sole tank. Looking at it straight away, you can see what the DPS heroes in this lineup have in common. They're all long range, and now if you look at exactly what GC Busan were running at the start of this map, you can now start to understand why. Goat's comp has a big weakness with any hero that can keep their distance and fire from range, and that's exactly what Pharah, Widowmaker and Hanzo can do. Soldier, yes, to an extent, he has got an extra heal that will keep his team alive, so he can do some support, but not a lot. But as you're watching the gameplay, you can see exactly what StormQuake are trying to do. The Goats pushes out, tries to do its best, but ultimately gets taken down, and a good amount of time wasted for StormQuake here. Now ultimately, we do see GC Busan change and break through this defense, but you can start to understand fairly simply how this composition's been run. So for the DPS characters, it makes a lot of sense. For heroes that like to fight from distance, that ultimately Goat's comp can't touch unless they run at them. Think of it like Goat's comp being Ant-Man in Civil War where he gets big, and these DPS heroes being Spider-Man swinging around trying to be really hard to hit. Ultimately, Goat's comp can't touch you, and you get a lot of damage in for free. The rest of the lineup is also fairly easy to explain. You of course have Mercy, who is just really good at being able to die in a dash between all 5 of her teammates. She can damage boost heroes like Widowmaker and Hanzo that can chip out a good chunk of damage, and can res anybody that goes down because no doubt they'll be on high ground and they'll be fairly safe as well. And for the most part, when Quad DPS gets used in these games, it most importantly forces the other team to change off of Goats onto other stuff. And it works exceptionally on areas like the first point of Route 66, where it has multiple areas that a hero can sit on the high ground, very long sight lines, and just the ability to see the spawn doors from the attacking team. And if they're playing Goat's comp or any form of tanks, they have absolutely nowhere to hide. When it comes to the tanks, Orisa isn't the best option, but she's a hell of a lot better than Reinhardt and Winston. Mostly because Orisa herself could put down the shield, halt enemy targets back, and she also has a long range damage ability that can do some damage from a distance. However, you need to be on the one payload to contest it, so ultimately, you're the first wall that Goat's comp's going to hit, and they're no doubt going to break through you in a lot of cases. But anyway, this is an example of StormQuake's Quad DPS lineup, which wasn't really seen an awful lot in the Korean scene. I believe it was seen a couple more times since, but when you certainly look at Chinese contenders, that composition and lineup has been growing more and more in popularity. The gameplay that we're now seeing is LGD versus Lucky Future. As you can see from the score and the lineup, it was a very close game. As you're sort of seeing in the background, it's just quite easy to be able to get those picks and there's very little to contest, but these aren't two bad teams in the Chinese region, but it just goes to show that this composition does have its merits on a map like Route 66. Now I want to talk about why this composition is going to get a lot better, and it starts with an A first and foremost, and that would be Ashe. Ashe is going to be added into the next patch for contenders for the playoffs and stuff. Maybe by the time that this video goes out, we'll see a couple of examples of Ashe being used in a competitive sense, but right now she hasn't been available to be played in contenders at all because they're a patch behind, so we might see Ashe added into this lineup as one of the Quad DPS. It suits her, really. She's a long range DPS, much like Widowmaker and Hanzo, so might replace the Soldier in a lot of cases. But all of those heroes up against Goat's comp and Goat's comp can't reach them just means it's really strong. But then you also have the Brigitte nerfs hitting home, I think a patch later. It's not on the same exact patch, but you get the idea that Brigitte and Goats gets a little bit weaker against different compositions, so that just might mean that Quad DPS may get used a little bit more. But there is a big caveat to the composition. It is really good on Route 66, but that's all about it's good on. I think we have seen teams as well in the EU and NA region running Quad DPS on this part of the map. I do need to double check that, but it is really good because of how open the first point, at least, of Route 66 is. Once you go inside onto the third checkpoint, that's where most teams tend to swap off this composition. As a Widowmaker or a Hanzo, you could effectively see the enemy team spawn doors from Big Earls, and you can move forward and backward with relative ease. And as I said, Goat's Comp is going to struggle to contest you on high ground, and there's a good amount of that on the first point of Route 66 at least. I do believe that this composition can be used on stuff like Rialto first point, Dorado potentially, maybe even Junkatown with how open that is, but I don't think it's really going to be used anywhere else. It might transcend across all of the escort maps, but once you're talking 2CP and control, where you need to be a bit more in the face of the enemy team, I think this composition may fall to the wayside at least just a little bit. I wouldn't necessarily say that this composition is gimmicky by nature, but it has areas where it's really strong and has areas where it's really weak, but ultimately that's what I like about a lot of these compositions. No comp like Goat's Comp should be used all the time and be really effective all of the time. Map dependent metas are the most fun, so I wanted to introduce to you this composition, where it's good, why it's good to get a lot better, but ultimately why it has a bit of a soft cap on how good it can be, at least across different game modes and map types. But do let us know what you think of this composition. I feel like we've all had these games where Quad DPS has been in our lineup, but it hasn't gone quite as good as this. So thanks for watching, and thanks again to Omen by HP to help support this video. This video was actually edited on my laptop. I'm currently still up in Yorkshire after Christmas, and this laptop's been an absolute lifesaver. I can play Overwatch on it on pretty high quality graphics. I can render out videos as normal. So if you're interested in having a look at that, there is a link in the description below. But thanks for watching. Let me know what you think of Quad DPS, whether you think we'll see it more. And until next time, take care. We'll see you then.